we running right now? Yep. What do we have right now, Andy?
Yeah.
What up, Andy?
Andy's awake on the weekend.
Andrekin Mauricio. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, Mauricio. Yeah, good to be back.
Right.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Beyond I Do. Thanks for joining us today on this grand episode.
Yes.
Here we are.
Oh, I said it.
What?
I said, and well, I mean, they could cut it. Never
What?
mind. I said we're here on a Saturday.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We could. No, people don't know what other days we film on. It's
That's
not like
true, too. That's true, too.
Yeah, we came in on Saturday because we had a busy week.
Yeah.
Planning the top of the year and doing some other things, and some other exciting things, which we'll go into in a future podcast episode that we'll share. But we're excited because we're going to come to you with something, maybe a little light, maybe it's not light, depending on where your relationship is at.
Yeah.
Could be light, could be not light.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But Ashley has a video that she saw that she wanted us to have a conversation about.
Yeah. I thought it was entertaining on my end, but I know that some people could possibly be offended. Some wives could be offended by it because they may take it seriously. So what it was a TikTok where a wife had said, and it started off pretty deep where you're like, oh no, the marriage may be crumbling. Because she said, after 12 years of marriage, my husband basically sent me a letter.
Yeah.
And then you're like...
And it's like a carousel, right?
Yeah,
like
a carousel. So you slide over, and then it was a text message. And in the text message, she wrote, really, after 12 years, I get this letter. And he goes, I had to give you my honest truth. I had to stick to my truth. And his truth was... Dear wife, let me start off by saying that I love you dearly. You mean the world to me. However, I owe it to myself as well as you to be completely honest with you. I have to come forward with my truth. I hate to do that this way, but it's now or never because what I'm about to say has to be said. Tonight on October 22nd, 2024, marks opening night for the New York Knicks 24-25 season. I will be watching the game tonight. That means from 7 p.m., that's when pregame starts, to whatever time the game ends, I will not be a husband or a father. Y'all are on your own for a couple of hours. No, I will not watch our shows with you. No, I will not get you something sweet. I will not take the dog out. I will not get the kids in bed either. I will sit on my couch, drink in hand, and I will watch the game. That's it. This doesn't mean I love you guys any less. It just means tonight it's not about y'all. It's about ruining the Boston Celtics ring ceremony. The rest of the season is negotiable. Up until this point in time, we reach the playoffs. Then I will have to abandon y'all again temporarily. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can call me you have my number. Just call me if you need me. I look forward to seeing and talking to you later after, in all caps, the game. That's it. Love, Fred. P.S. The children may stay up past bedtime only if he watches the game with me. If he doesn't want to watch the game, then off to bed he will go. Thanks. I mean,
fair enough. Oh,
we have a surprise guest.
Yeah. Later.
Who? Yeah.
Brewster woman.
Yeah. I mean, I find personally for me, because sports isn't big in our home. If you were to have sent me that, I would have immediately thought it was a joke. Because sports aren't something that you can sit down and watch for hours on end. Yeah. But there is something that we can probably deep dive in later after we talk about this. I just think that if he's present during, and it's all dependent on the relationship, if he's a present husband, a present father, and he works, he loves his wife, loves his home, loves his kids, and is available during that time, I think that in a funny way, and it's probably in the relationship, he was saying like, I would like to enjoy this hour or hour and a half to where I can...
Basketball games aren't an hour and a half. I know that much, babe.
About 2 hours. Okay, 2 hours.
They're longer.
2 hours. Football games are like 4 hours. Yeah, about 2 hours. 2 hours with halftime and everything like that. About 2 hours to where he's enjoying the game. Something like that for me personally would not be bothersome for me knowing if it was coming from you. Let me just say this. If the letter came from you, I'd be like, oh, okay, if Adam desires to watch this. Or if you were watching golf takes forever. But there's never been a point where you've said, I need silence and I need to watch this golf because, I mean, you'd probably fall asleep anyways because you'd be bored half the time. But there are a lot of relationships where I know that sports is big for a lot of men and they do not like to be bothered. They feel like if they are bothered or interrupted, they are in the game and they're going to start losing.
Yeah.
Like the team will start losing. I mean, I know for my brother, he loves watching the Bears every Sunday. And when he has every opportunity, he's sitting in front of his TV and he's fully engaged while everything else is going on around him because he's fully submerged into his team.
Yeah.
To say that I know how my sister-in-law feels about it, I don't know. I think we're just all, it's loud, it's noisy, and normally it's surrounded around an atmosphere in that sense. But if this is something where you find your marriage is already at a loss and you find that this is just another escape for your husband to have this me time, then yeah, conversations really do need to be had where you don't feel like this is I don't want to say a deserved time, but sometimes I feel like if that's what a desire is, maybe he should do on the ladder of like, okay, I know I'm going to help clean, cook, do all this, do all that. And hopefully the reward is she won't be bothered that I want to watch a game for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll say right off the bat, because I know a lot of people listen to this, is I have disassociated disorder. So I struggle with empathy and emotion.
Yeah.
And so, I don't get excited about anything, and
Right.
that's part of a dissociated disorder. So to like one degree, I always like I understand people who are passionate about those type of things, like a football team, a basketball team, or even for women, like you know. Like a lot of ladies who watch reality shows, it doesn't make sense to me, you know, or like you have family members. Your sister was on Survivor, and you have family members obsessed with this. Like I've never had anything like that. I've never related to anything like that. There's nothing that would be something that I give that much energy to on an allegiance or on an excitement level. So that, and I don't say that in a pride. I wish I could feel like a human at times and just be like everyone else and have a team or go to games or whatever that is. I don't have any relation or connection to any of that stuff. So I'll say that right off the bat. Like, I don't understand it, but I recognize that I'm the minority in that situation. And the rest of kind of men in society is the majority. And even some of my best friends are that. And I don't think it's silly. I don't think it's non-essential. I think for a lot of men, having a team right now, we're in the World Series for the Dodgers. Everywhere you go is gridlock traffic. Everything everyone is wearing is Dodgers. I have Dodgers gear. I go places out of state and they're like, where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from Greater Los Angeles. Oh, your team, the Dodgers? I'm like, yeah. Is your team the Angels? Yeah. I don't care. I don't have a team. Whatever team you want me to be, I'll be on. Yeah. So that being said, I mean, I have friends. One of my mentors who went home to be with the Lord, Robert Thompson, was a season ticket holder to Lakers my whole life, my whole childhood, adulthood. He would give us some of his tickets every single year. One of my best friends has season tickets to Rams games. He comes to church early in the morning. He's wearing a Rams jersey. He goes to the game. If he misses the game, Monday morning, he's sending me screenshots or calling me and telling me, hey, I didn't miss. I'm listening to Sunday service right now. Yeah. So, he has both and discipline, but like football season on Sundays, all that stuff. Though I don't understand it, I get why people everybody's looking for an escape. That's kind of what it comes down to. And I think encouraging your spouse that if it's good for them mentally, emotionally, it should be encouraged and there should be given space. There should be given space to our wives to be able to have time where they're just relaxing or they're enjoying something and they can kind of disconnect and just enjoy. Same thing for the men. Here's the only thing that I always, would say, hey, just be cautious that, your love for a team or your love for a game doesn't outweigh the emotion that you ever show your family or your own children. And, there is a lot of people who do experience that where, I talk to guys my own age or whatever. And, it's like, man, I remember my grandfather or my dad loved their car, washed it every day, took care of their garage or whatever. And it's just like, we never got to spend time together. Yeah. And it was like, well, I invited you to come clear the car with me. So there's this expectation, and even this dad did it and he's doing it joking and jokes fine and all that. But he's like, he can only stay up past his bedtime if he joins me with the game, which I get it. Right. As a dad, you want your son to join you. But at the same time, your son would also be associating, my dad will only spend time with me. This may not be his case. This could be a real joke. So I'm not putting it. But if that was serious and it's like, oh, my dad only let me hang or stay up if I liked his thing or engaged his thing. Now, it's a great opportunity to build memories with your son. But those also shouldn't be the only emotions or the only best, right? Like if your wife sees how excited you get for a game night and you're prepping and you got your friends coming and you got chicken wings and you got everything ordered and you got the chips set up and you got the dip set up and you got all the beers in the fridge, and it's like you've never taken your wife on a thought out date or you've never set dinner for your wife. I'll order, I'll set up, I'll do this, or vice versa. As a wife, if you have energy in a certain thing, you have a girls' wine night and cheese night and you guys are watching a movie or you're watching a reality show and there's all this hyperfixation upon impressing people and having the right atmosphere. But if your family doesn't get the best version of you, then that's where I always just say, just reflect, just make sure that your wife and kids, make sure that your husband, they don't have to get all your time. They don't have to get all your space. They don't even have to share your same hobbies, but they should get your excitement. They should get your thought, your thinking in terms of putting something together to spend that time. And so I just always encourage other guys I'm talking to, it's like, just make sure your energy matches. Like, have fun. Do whatever you're going to do. You're into classic cars, man, be into classic cars. You're into sports, man, be into sports. And thank God if your kids get the same interest.
Right.
But if they don't, that shouldn't be the only contingent thing that you guys have in common. That you can build into that. So that's why it's like, I like it. It's funny. The wife's posting it. So she clearly thinks it's funny. She's not saying it's serious, but there also is like some real conversations that should be had. But I also know the flip side. A lot of wives roll their eyes like, oh, it's basketball season. He's not going to, I don't know what his love is. He may be doing a million things in the game and all he watches is ESPN, which, okay, maybe it is annoying, but if it's like, there's some people we just don't give grace for our spouses to enjoy anything that we're not interested in.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's a great point that you add because it goes into what conversations that we have. Like as you and I grow in our marriage and in our relationship, and as we get older, interest may grow or interests may change, or you may find yourself not interested in anything anymore, and just truly trying to figure out what that hobby may be or what your interest may be. And sports, I think it takes a true sports fan to just stay within sports because, for me, growing up playing sports my whole life, there wasn't, my mom always says, we always watch sports. I don't remember watching sports. I remember playing sports. So like when it comes even for me, unless I'm in the building, I have zero interest in watching it on the TV. But if you were like, hey, Ashley, I want to watch the Dodger series. Like I'm going to be a bandwagon fan and jump on with everyone. I'll be like, let's do it. Because it's something of an interest that my husband is enjoying, and us knowing as we grow older, things change, hobbies change, interests change, we change. I think that gives room for the spouse to allow their spouse to grow and change at a healthy rate, at a rate of making sure, like you said, there still is intention, reflection, how much are you really investing in this? It's one thing if the husband's like, okay, I got a fantasy football league. I don't even know if they have fantasy basketball teams, if that's what it's called. Basketball team, is it fantasy basketball leagues? Yeah.
Fantasy for everything.
Everything, yeah. So I think it just all dependent on the extreme. If this gentleman is like, I just want to watch it, I think that there can be some level of like grace in there. Now he's Jersey, watching the draft pick, got draft pick of the fantasy. He's calling his teammates, calling his friends, and setting up I think it all has to be at a healthy rate, because sometimes when you think about people who are fully submerging themselves and other things, they want to be out of reality.
Yeah. Maybe they want to be out of reality, or that's what they really enjoy, which is fine. That's fine to, be bought in on the Dallas Cowboys or whatever and do fantasy and all that stuff is fine.
But like for people to get upset and
your
cry with the team,
care of,
like
which is fine. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't understand it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's not someone who cries because their teams are. I wouldn't immediately be like. Maybe a psychologist would say otherwise, but as a pastor, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, something's wrong with them. They have trauma. They're crying that the Dodgers or they're forsaking their family."
Well, not forsaking their family when it comes to like crying over it. I'm saying like if you are filling your time outside, like you said, like what's the healthy balance? If you're filling your time with everything to not be present, then there's something that has to be looked at.
If your family's neglected, if your spouse's needs are neglected, if your children's needs are neglected, for sure. If your kid's in sports and you're not going to any of their games, but you never miss your team's games, that's where I think we're saying the same thing of like, just make sure your energy and your encouragement is equal to the thing that you ultimately enjoy, which is fine. I don't in that exterior stuff I don't relate to, but I understand why people like it, need it, want it, and a lot of couples even share with it. Like I found more than ever that even a lot of wives love sports with their husbands and stuff like that. I feel like a generation ago those were pretty separate. Like it was it always felt like a really male dominated fandom, football, basketball, baseball, but like it just seems to me more apparent now that it's men and women are fans of sports. Maybe it's not to the degree as much as men in terms of fantasy leagues and stuff like that. But, I talk to just as many women who now wear, Dodger stuff or Ram stuff or whatever that maybe they just like it because their spouse, but it's much more equally shared, fandom. But at the end of the day, like we have counseled people or talked to people where like a spouse, particularly a wife, will roll their eyes that their husband's like wants to watch the game every week. And we've talked like, what's so wrong? What's so wrong about them wanting to go to their friends to watch the game? Are they coming back drunk? No, they're not coming back drunk. Are they like at a bar doing this and they're like talking to women? Or no, they're not doing it. They're just at their buddy's garage and they watch the game. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, because I don't have any friends. And we've had sessions where that has been the response, because I don't have any friends. And it's like, well, men socialize around the dumbest stuff. There could be a dead snail on the concrete that ants are eating, and men will congregate over it to watch it. Like we men, we congregate over ridiculous things. And so football and basketball and baseball, like those are really easy things for us to congregate around. And it's very easy. Men are very tribalistic. So it's very easy to be excited to have your tribe, your team, and you be against another team, and you get out all your, vocal energy of who you're for and who you're against. But, as a wife, if you boil it down, well, it's not fair because he gets to enjoy this and I'm not enjoying anything in life right now. Well, like that's a you problem.
Yeah. Well, then I would ask this then, because we may or may not have talked about it, because take a game aside, like, okay, watching a game, let's just say golf. Like if a guy wants to go golfing with his buddies, and like how you used to go golfing, maybe once every other week, and there wasn't ever, and I knew how long golf would last.
Yeah.
There was never an in-between. You would tell me the exact. There have been TikToks where they record the guys and go, when did you tell your wife you were going to be home?
Yeah.
And it was like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
At what point do you have to, or at what point it is okay for a wife to feel okay for the honesty? Like if this is something you want to do, just do it and be honest about it and not try to cover your tracks because it's going to be longer. So let's just say,
well,
you know what I mean?
Man, I'll be honest. If you nagged me about it all the time, I'd probably start lying more. So
So the wife is like, I'm only playing 9 holes. That takes 2 hours.
Well, if you were guilt tripping me and you were like, oh, you're going again. And I'm like, well, what are we doing today? Oh, we're not doing anything. It's like, I mean, you're picking up the boys from school today or tomorrow. Like, what, you can't pick them up today so that I could go. You're doing that every day. It's like, it's this idea that like, we have a rhythm and, again, we talk like there is a way to kind of abuse it, and there are times that it's abuse, but let's just say in a very healthy way, it's like, if you were all of a sudden like, I'm an hour, like, what time are you coming home again? Why aren't you home yet? Why do you do this? Or, hey, I'm going to go golfing again next Friday or whatever. And you're like, why? And you just continually made it very difficult for me to even want to. Well, then at some point you and I would probably there would probably be some type of schism between us. I would probably start going more quieter. And then I'd have to make a decision. It's like, either I'm going to talk to you one day and just be like, do you not want me to play? And then you're going to be like, no, I do. I just, and then it becomes this rigmarole. So you'll see a lot of marriages start to separate because one person is operating, both may be operating selfishly, but one person is operating where there's no win. So it's like, okay, if I stay home, you're still mad that I'm home because you're going to be like, are you going to do anything today? It's like, but I'm off today. Or I'm in the backyard and I'm working, and then you're going to be like, are you going to be present with the family? It's like, well, the kids are at school or whatever. So it's like, we have counseled enough people where there are situations where the man just can't win. And so then that's why he's disassociating, is because everything is a loss. Mm-hmm. So if he's right next to her, she's annoyed that he's breathing. If he's in the other room, she's annoyed that he's not helping in the kitchen. If he's out golfing, she's annoyed that he's not present in the family. Right. If he's not golfing and he's out traveling, making money for the family, she's annoyed that she has to do all the work at home. It's just like, and that's not every marriage. No. Our marriage is like that. And I travel and I, at times golf and all those things, and you're very supportive. But it's like, if you decided to ever switch the switch and just make everything really hard. And there'd been seasons where
I did.
You did. Yeah. And I felt like in a lot of areas I couldn't win.
Yeah.
And so we had to go to our community and bring that up, because what was happening for me is I was getting colder towards you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just not going to communicate with her anymore, because there's no real communication being had.
Right.
And then when we go talk with our accountability and our community, and we would find ourselves back on track. And so I think, like, whatever it is, because for you, I think women deal with stress and mental health differently. And so there are other ways that women deal with it too. Like, some women like to read, some women, like to, it may be a spa day or whatever else it may be. It may be going out with their friends, working out or whatever. And so, I think support is a two-way street, and understanding each other is a two-way street. I think what's commonly...
Do you think that for us as women, and sorry to cut you off, do you think for us as women, and not all women, but I find myself in this area as well, that we find this codependency with our spouse, that we want our spouse to enjoy their time with their friends, but in reality still want your time. Like, for me, I'll speak on my end. Literally yesterday, we get home, you leave right away to a haircut. I don't even think you're gone for 40 minutes. And I was like, yeah, when are you coming home?
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, nothing. But like, it wasn't the fact that you were getting a haircut that I felt like I was missing out on something. But we had been together, and I was just like, yeah, just like, where are you? Like, why aren't you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This, and I mean, it may be, some people would be like, wow, that's unhealthy. But I'm like, I really love my husband. So like, I enjoy my time with him. So sometimes some women may feel And I think that was the case. Like, do you not enjoy time with me? Is that why you're not wanting to hang out with me? Sort of thing of the codependency in reality.
Yeah.
Like, well, you get to hang out with your boys, but in reality, as women, we're weird sometimes. I'll say I'm weird. Well, you get to hang out with your boys. You have so much fun. But you'd be like, well, you have girlfriends, but I don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, yeah.
I'm weird.
I mean, I think that's I want
to hang out with you. Like it sounds
and we've counseled
weird.
couples before. Again, here's what I would say: if your husband is the breadwinner, you have to be able to recognize, is what he's doing work or is it friends? Because we've counseled a lot of people a lot of times where we're like, who is your husband hanging out with? Oh, he's hanging out with his coworkers. What happens there? Oh, well, they're in sales, and so that's part of sales. They have to take people to dinner. They have to take each other to dinner. There's networking. There's they're part of different franchises, and so it's like we've counseled people to be like, hey, remember, there's a certain level. I mean, even if you're in construction, like there are times as construction workers, you guys should go eat together because it's laborious, and just the fact of breaking bread. Like we take our staff all the time individually. The people I lead directly in my core. I mean, I'm taking them to lunch all the time because you can't just be in the office and work. Like you have to break bread to create some type of relational equity. And so what we talked with couples before is like just because there may be a dinner after work, he's not having fun. There is a breadwinner part of his mind that still may be on. Now, if he's hanging out with his friends from college, okay, yeah, he's with his friends, but like don't separate, like you don't bag it all together. And a lot of times, if you think, a lot of men are hanging out with people they work with, which is part of an equity that I would say is still work half the time. And so as a wife, you have to be mindful of that. Because more than likely, your husband is in some type of workforce or career that takes relational skills. Where like women, they don't tend to be in that. Women tend to be in nursing, teaching, hairdressing. Now, you don't have to work with anyone that. When you're a teacher, you have students. Like you don't have to hang out with other teachers in order to get your job done because you're in a different classroom. When you're a nurse, you don't necessarily have to hang out with other nurses because you have clients. But when you're a guy, a man, a lot of times you're in trades, you're doing trades, you're in some type of people skill, work environment, sales, real estate, all that kind of stuff. And there's genders in all of them. There's men in nursing and hairdressing. It's not so like, simplified, but to a lot of degrees that is. So even for me, like there's times for you, I'd be like, hey, we have this guest out of town and I'm taking him to dinner after, and you've rolled your eyes, and I'm just like, well, a guy can't come from Texas and not eat. Like,
right.
I'm not going to send him on his way to go eat by himself when he came all the way here from Texas or whatever, Right. And so first question we would ask, that I ask couples, is like, number one, is what your spouse doing connected to their job? They may not be clocked in, but is there a correlation to their job, that their job gets done through this? Like in Japan, it's mandatory when you clock out 1 hour, you have to spend with your coworkers to go get a beer. Like, and it's not in your schedule, but you're seen as antisocial and not collaborative if you don't go at least like 4 days a week in Japan to get a beer with your coworkers. Wow. So you would not get promoted unless you do that in Japan. I would say there's a certain said version of that in the States, and it's not really like bar culture correlated, but it is relational correlation. Right. The second thing I would say for a spouse is, your husband is not your child. And so a lot of moms are used to, where are you at? Where are you going? Who are you going to be with? When you coming home? But even with, no matter what age they are, our boys, you always want to know where they're at. What are they doing? They go upstairs to their room. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? How long are you going to be up there?
You sent me a TikTok yesterday. It was yesterday, 2 days ago. You got it from the couch, and I was like, where are you going?
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So the first thing, so with your case, like you want to know where, first thing I would like say is, number one, like don't view your husband like they're your child. Yeah. So why are you doing that? What are you doing? First of all, as a wife, if you're just curious, you can ask you, but don't talk to me like I'm one of these kids, Yeah. That happens a lot, where moms are great at being moms, and moms are incredible. Moms also don't always know how to turn it off. And then the more moms, the more children you add, the more stress you add. And, you know, we've even seen this a lot with single mothers that eventually get married. They it's the hardest for them is to turn off that function. Like, oh, and some men, they go like, oh yeah, I love this because she takes care of me. She cooks for me. She massages my feet, but she also controls you when you think about it. And so, yeah, you get some good with it. You get her mama bearing you, but you also get her like dictating your whole life. And so if I ever felt like that switch got turned on for you, for me, that would immediately make me reject it. Right. So like my haircut, you're coming out of a place of like, you do like spending time with me. But if I ever felt like it's because your mom's switch was turned on,
right? Like,
you know, and you want to know when I'm coming home from golf, not because you care, but you're being a mom and you're saying you need to check in with me. You need to this, and I'd be like, hey, back off. Just leave me alone. In the Hispanic culture, some of that stuff, we call it toxica, la toxica. It's like toxic, you know, and other cultures call it other things. But it's like that is a very, I think, unhealthy marital relationship if it's not grounded in just love and affection and care. If it's grounded upon like control and risk adverse, like, because I need to know what you're doing because I don't know what you're going to do if I'm not checking in with you. And so it's comes untrusting and all that other kind of stuff like that. Like that, I'd say those two things are really dangerous in marriages. If the spouse is not encouraging the relational equity that has to happen at work sometimes, and also recognizing within them, am I parenting my spouse? Yeah. And then the third is just, you know, could be really healthy, which is like, I love you, but there are couples and people that sometimes smother each other. Right. And so you have to be aware, like, am I smothering, you know, my spouse? Am I coming on too hard, too heavy, you know, where I do have to give them some space to process their own thoughts, you know, to think on their own. And so
going back to what Ashley, you said that you guys had kind of found yourselves in that season where you were like, when are you coming home? What are you doing? Why are you out? And all that stuff. And knowing that both of you guys are in ministry at the same place, have the same coworkers, you know, sometimes even mentoring the same people. Like, how did you get yourself out of that place for that person that maybe is there right now? And they're like, dang, I, you know, am on my spouse 24/7. When are you coming home? Why are you out? It's been 5 minutes. You know?
Yeah. And that happened early on in our marriage when we were early on, because we were working together. We were going to lunch together every day. We were hanging out every day. We shared the same office space. So we were with each other 24/7 to where like it became unhealthy of like, and then we lost friendships. So then he was running ministry and he was over creative and doing the pastoral transition and everything like that. And I was pretty much like, it sounds crazy. I wouldn't say he's my everything, but he was everything. Like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Can I go? Why do you have to go? You're going again? Well, can I go with you? And it was really unhealthy to the point where I got annoyed with him, with how much I was obsessed with him and more bickering. And that's when I think that's where the enemy allows himself in, because I wanted to know everything about him and everything that he was doing, that it turned into annoyance. Because if I wasn't his priority, but I was making him mine, I thought that he wasn't caring enough. So then that's where the nagging started to take place. That's where the annoyance of, well, I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go out. I want to go with you. Why can't I go? You're going with new people. Yeah. And so we had to really sit down and have a talk of where Adam was like, I absolutely love you. I absolutely want nothing more than to do life with you. But one, you can't be my assistant anymore because we're finding that this isn't healthy. Two, I have to build connections and relationships with people on my side. I cannot go to lunch with you anymore because you turned yourself into a clique, like this dominating relationship on our staff, which it did, in the sense of like, no one's allowed in. And Adam's like, we're not those type of people. You're not that type of person. So we have to change our atmosphere, not only with each other, but with the people around us, to know that we aren't just these two that just operate in one. No, we operate in love with everyone around us. And then our community just saw the lack of just just the insecurities that I had.
Yeah.
It was completely on him to bring me happiness. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore because I was very unhappy, I was really overweight, and I need to get myself back together.
Well, yeah, you didn't really have strong relationships. You didn't really have any hobbies.
Mm-mm.
So you had
wasn't
stopped working out. So it was like you were bored. The short answer is you were bored.
Very
and
much
then
so.
you started nitpicking, my life.
Everything.
And then you get busier. And then because she's my wife and I love her, she wants more from life. So she wants to go places. She wants to move out of our house and get a better house. And so I'm like, we're going to move into my parents for 2 years. I'm going to keep this house. I'm going to rent it out. We're going to sell it for top dollar. But I'm going to operate a company outside my current job as a pastor so we can make more money. Mm-hmm. So then I'm working in that job and she's sitting there and she's like, what do you mean you can't go to the movies? I'm like, well, because I have a client who I've had deliverables due this weekend that I got to do that when I clock out of this job, I got to go do that. And she's like, well, that's annoying. And it's like, I'm doing all this for you. Yeah. Like, leave me tomorrow. I'll stop doing all this stuff. Like this is for you, but I'm getting the sack for it. And then God forbid the couple times that I'm telling my friends like, yo, let's go to dinner. She's going, well, so I'm going to be home with Matthias, our newborn, by myself. And it's like, yeah, you are. Like you could go anywhere. You can go to your mom's. You could make a friend. You can go to dinner with a friend. You can get a babysitter. You could do a million things. Why won't you do it? Because I'm a homebody. It's like, well, once again, that's a you problem. You can't discourage me from having any ounce of any of my own personal mental health. And for me, it's less sports, blah, 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 blah. Every once in a while, I desire time to hang out with friends, go to dinner, and just talk about life. And my faith is really important. So I love getting with my friends and us talking about our relationship with the Lord and where we're at and all that kind of stuff like that. And so it's just like, I can't do that because you don't have friends. I can't do that because you don't have hobbies. I can't do that because, and a lot of times if that's connected, then that's what needs to change. It's like,
and
we work with couples before where they're just like, I'm a woman. I just don't get along with women. I get along better with men. And we're like, well, you're married now, so you can't get along better with men. That's one thing that's probably not going to be beneficial for you. Number two, like you're going to have to find a way to relate to other women if you don't want to be lonely. If you know how to cope with it, then that's fine. But we've counted so many people that it was just like one of the couples was just like, but I don't want to get to know anyone. I don't want any friends. My spouse is my friend. And it's like, well.
Right. And you're not saying this in an uncompassionate way where you're like, well, that's a you problem. You got to figure it out. It was in the way of like, you were who I married. And there are seasons of life that for women we go through emotionally and really because I was trying to figure out what I was doing in ministry. So that was another stem that was on top of my emotions and my feeling like, what am I really doing? Am I really called to this? Not called to this, but like, I'm just your assistant. I don't have really a voice. And so it was more so when we started to unveil and peel back the layers, it really had nothing to do with him. And that's sometimes I think that the reflection that we talked about at the front end has to take place of a self-reflection of who you are without your spouse. Like, and it was like, I would do when like you would not want me to go to something. So then I wouldn't. And then you wouldn't want me to take a job. And then I wouldn't. Yeah. But then I'd have other pressures of like, Adam, finances, or Adam, you're stressed. You should go do something. It's like, well, am I going to get in trouble again? If I do something, and that was that's more of where eventually you have, and we've said before on the podcast, me and Ashley communicate very differently than the average couple, which we're very transparent. And we like really, we don't leave any room for interpretation. Like we speak very black and white to each other. And so for me, legitimately saying, hey, whatever you're going through is a you problem. It's my loving way of saying, I cannot make the changes that you're asking me to make and you still be happy. You won't. Right. Or it's possible for you to be happy, but at my demise. I could be here 24 hours a day. That's fine. But like, even when I'm around you, you're still annoyed with me because then I'm around you too much, but you don't want me around anyone else. So it's like, so where are we at? Like. I know some wives are probably like, don't know.
Yeah.
No.
Like, that's not fair. You
That's
can't,
not-
you can't
don't
read our
talk to
business.
me like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
'Cause it's me
Which
to
I
this
love
day.
it. In theory,
It's me
as a
today
husband, I
too,
love
though.
it.
Yeah.
As a husband, I love it. I love
do
my
that all
wife
the
wants to be
time.
around me. I love that, it's like,
When you have
that's
work
great,
and all that
but-
stuff, and I'm like, like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like in reality, I know what God has called me to, and He hasn't just called me to you. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, as far as like, He's blessed us with 2 boys. Blessed me to be a good mother. Blessed me to be active. Blessed me to be around a great community of people. And He's called me to you to exalt you in the way that He wants you to be. And I can't be that hindrance for you. And I refuse to be. So everything that you say that you desire to do, as long as it's in alignment and we're in unity with it and we have that transparency conversation, I'm going to support you on it. Do you, like we've had that conversation, does sometimes like my life is more interrupted with when it comes to like, I have to, what's the word we used?
Like balancing the family
yeah,
more, like
yeah.
it's more inconvenienced on you
yes,
than it
yes.
is. Not that family and kids are inconvenienced, but time is an inconvenience,
Yes.
and so
Yes,
right.
so that's where we have that healthy communication between the 2 of us of you saying like, hey, I know you see on the calendar I'm traveling. I know this may be an inconvenience at this moment in time, but like, or you'll put it in the calendar and saying, hey, I have this trip coming up, and then me being able to change my schedule. But we always had that healthy communication as far as knowing like, I will be just fine. Like we've had enough healthy conversations, we've had enough interactions, we've had enough of these trial and errors in our relationship to be able to work well together when these inconveniences happen, knowing that it's for work. So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like I think for wives, it's what is the inconvenience? Is the inconvenience twice a month golf outing with the boys? Is it really that of an inconvenience, or is it you're saying that's 4 hours that I wish I could have, but majority of the time the kids are at school for the 4 hours, so you do have free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's where
Or
like
it's just, or we make the excuse of like what presence is. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I want him here. It's like, so you're okay with him being in the garage for 5 hours as long as he's quote unquote here, but he's not talking to any of you. He's not interacting with any of you. He's like, you're good with that.
Yeah.
But you're not good with him being gone for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And like, those are the same thing.
Right.
Him in the garage or him doing whatever, is like, it's the same expression,
Right.
in a lot of ways. Or are you saying, no, we need you present? Like the kids haven't been around you in a while. You haven't been around us in a while. Like we want to be in the room with you. We want you engaged with it. Like that's one thing. Like if you came to me and was like, Adam, I don't want you to golf tomorrow because Matthias has a minimum day. I think it's a great day that we as a family could go get lunch together, or we as a family, when you come home, we can just all hang out and watch a movie. Then I'd be like, okay, I have to be mindful. Ashley feels like I'm missing out on something, or wouldn't be a good look, or whatever it is.
Right.
So therefore, I should make a connection. But if you were like, hey, I don't think you should go golfing tomorrow because Matthias has a minimum day, and I'd be like, okay, what do you need me to do? I just don't think you should be gone. You could just be at home. Just be at home. It's like, but the boys are going to be on their iPad the whole time. Mm-hmm. You're going to be on your phone on TikTok, and you just want me on the couch? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. That in my head, I'm like that's not fair.
Right.
That's not. We can both sacrifice for it. You could, in the same way, you could say, "Hey, I'm going to go with my friend to lunch. The boys are here. They're playing PS5 and they're hanging out. You know, like, is that cool?" I'm like, yes, that's fine. Step out. There's nothing being missed out in the family. In that sense, like everybody's being looked after. Everybody's being taken care of. Everybody needs are being met. Yes. Like, go do whatever you have to do.
I think that's very wise to even say too, because we sometimes as wives want the husband to be a mind reader and just be like, hey, Matthias says minimum day. I don't want you going golfing. And the wife and you saying like, oh, okay, he has minimum day, so that means you want me to plan go here, let's go to breakfast, let's do that. And instead, a wife has every right to say, hey, I think this would be a great opportunity. I know you do have golf on the schedule, but because Matthias has that minimum day, can we do X, Y, and Z? I think as wives, we need to do better at communication of what we want and not be mind readers. I know I have my friends and accountability always will tell me whenever I mention my frustrations or my disagreements with you or whenever we have, and I'm venting or complaining to them, their first response, which I can't stand them, but their first response is, did you tell him? Mm-hmm. I'd be like, I'm venting right now.
Yeah,
I didn't come here for that. I came for you to listen and tell me I was right. But that's not the accountability and mentorship and friendships that I need. I need someone who's going to say, did you have that communication? Did you tell him the desires? Because I know your husband well enough. I know your husband well enough to know that he would do it if you asked him. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Closed mouths don't get fed. Yeah. And so in reality, we have to do better at the communication as far as what it looks like. And I mean, you can plan your months in advance. I mean, our calendar, someone asked me the other day, they're like, what are you most excited about? And I'm reading my response. I'm most excited about when Adam's 2025 calendar is done. Mm-hmm. So I can see and I know what we can do. Mm-hmm. Literally.
Yeah.
I want your calendar. So I know where we're going to be, where you have work, where we have play, where we have church, where we have fellowship, where we have community, where we have trips. I think that being able to communicate, because if you have a job that is just fluid and it's the same day in and day out, you as a couple should be able to have good communication on what it looks like of a healthy life to be able to communicate and have your hobbies and interests inputted within each other to have a healthy balance of a marriage, to where you don't get the annoyance of reliability on the other person or get that anger from the other person because they're doing more than what you're doing. And so I think that I always say that, go back to the calendar. Get a calendar. Yeah. Get a dual calendar.
Yeah. Share a calendar. Communicate what your needs are, or what you care about. What excites you.
Absolutely. Because every now and then mine changes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I go maybe 1 month I'm into working out. Next month I'm like, you're like, you working out? I'm like, no, I ain't working out.
Yeah, you were into running for like 30 days.
30 days.
You bought vests, sunglasses.
30 minutes.
yeah.
I was, and then it went really fast because my shoes went really fast. So that's my
right.
No, what happened? Oh, we went on a trip.
Whatever. Yeah. It's something happened apparently.
And I'm out of it. I'm out. Yeah. I was supposed to do the marathon on the 19th for my 36th birthday. Yeah. That's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to do a half marathon. But then I didn't because Matthias had a game at the time. And then I said, because it is a soccer game at the same time, I'm just...
Sure, that's what it was. There was a big inconvenience in your life.
She went from doing 10 miles to no miles.
Yeah, exactly.
I did. I ran a mile the other day. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
Literally. Hey, it changes. Look at that. Look,
look
change.
at that. Yeah.
It's going to be, who knows what it will be next.
Yeah, we'll see in the new year what happens. All right, everybody. Hey, well, thanks for joining us for that episode. Hopefully there was some conversation, something beneficial.
Yeah. Hopefully some letters are going to come in from husbands that listen to this. And
husbands, I'm always trying to have your back. I'm sorry that I lack empathy, and I do not enjoy anything in that regard. But I'm with you. I'm sympathetic.
The only thing you've ever been into was Seinfeld.
Well, I like movies and television, but there's nothing I would say that I'm a
you sit down and watch right now.
Like, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan. I have to be. It pulls emotion out of me. There's nothing like that pulls. Like you'll never see me cheering for a TV, and unless I'm with friends and my mind tells me, Adam, like, be a human right now, join what everyone, or you're gonna just sound really weird that you're silent. Like my mind does do that. Like, Adam, cheer for this team.
It's okay, because even when your mind does tell you, like at the game we went to, it was still weird.
Yeah. See, so.
High-fiving. Someone wanted to high-five him next to him for a touchdown, and he said no thanks, and I was like.
Well, it took me a minute to know
what was going on.
Well, no, I understand it was a touchdown, but we were at a Rams game. It was many years ago. I've learned my lessons.
Coliseum.
Yeah, that's when they played in the Coliseum. But we were at a Rams game, and the guy wanted a high five. And at first, I was like, I don't think I'm a Rams fan. But then I was like, wait, this is a Rams game. Am I supposed to be a Rams fan? I'm a nothing fan. So all that went through my head while the guy's hand was up, in which I just responded, no. Because if I was an opposing fan, I wouldn't high five him, right? Like if I was going for the other team, I wouldn't high five. So why would he? I wasn't even wearing anything Rams. Like, why would he assume I wanted to high five him because they scored a touchdown? Why would you assume that?
I do that when I go to soccer games. So
Yeah,
I
but
could
why
be
would
sitting
I-
next to
But
someone,
Alize goes to soccer games alone.
and I go alone.
Weird.
And we just we immediately commune over the fact that we love soccer. So
yeah,
usually,
but if they're
Well, at soccer
they are on the
games-
same team as you though.
yeah, at soccer games, usually the opposing side will sit on the other side.
Yeah,
It's very
so that's
rare
what I'm
that you'll
saying,
see them
like-
on this side.
Like we were at a Rams game, whoever they were playing, let's just say 49ers. Like there were people around us with 49er jerseys on. So they're like, when they high five, they're high fiving like Rams people. And then he turns to me, which we'd not talked the whole time. So I'm like, so he goes to
either
high
of
five
you
me, and
wearing
I don't
any
think
type of
I'm.
gear?
No, I don't think so.
I think I was.
Maybe you were. I don't know. But it was.
know you were.
It was enough that when he went, now I'll wear gear when I go to something. I've learned my lesson. Whatever the home team is tends to be. But I've learned my lesson. But in the moment, legitimately in my head, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to high five him because I'm not a real fan. And if I high five him, like I'm not excited about this touchdown. So why would I high five?
Runs
Like
deep there.
you guys, people who have my type of issues, they know
So
they know what I'm referring to.
Sitting there and are
You know.
standing now, mind you, and the guy, Adam's
very
on my
nice
left,
guy.
and then the guy, I'm high fiving. People are turning around. I mean, you know me. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I have germs. Yeah, let's do this. And then Adam's like sitting down, and so I'm standing. I don't care. Adam's sitting down. He's like this. The guy turns to Adam and is like, high five. And I was like, no, thanks. I was like, I'm not with him.
It made sense in my head. To be fair.
So then
To
the
be fair.
next
But I learned my lessons
The next
fast,
one he
you know?
did high five him. He's like, I'll owe you, and then high five.
I learned because
and
I
then he
wasn't
gave it back.
expecting a high five.
He wasn't. Yeah.
So when he wanted it, it was just like, no, I'm not a Rams fan. Wait, am I? Wait, I was given a Rams ticket holder season ticket. Like, oh, I think I'm supposed to be. Okay, I'll high five next time. That's what happened. So I learned, like, if someone gives you tickets, season tickets, I didn't get tickets for the whole season, but they're a season ticket holder. So we're in the Rams section. I have to assume that I'm supposed to high five. So when I do, and I do chapels for professional athletes.
Yeah.
I work with professional athletes.
Yeah.
And I tell them very early on, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've accomplished. Your sport, like I'm a fan of you. I'm not a fan of your sport. I'm not a fan of you in terms of you being an athlete or a celebrity. So if I go do a chapel for an athlete or a phone call with an athlete, I make it clear to them that I'm not going to relate to you. I'm not a fan of your team. I don't watch your team. I won't watch your team even when you play unless you ask me to.
Yep.
Most of them like that. They like that I don't
know who they
care or know. And I'm not doing it in a phony sense. I'm doing it as like, this is who I am. Yeah. But if I ever go to your game, I'm going to wear your jersey. I'm going to rep your team. I've learned my lesson. That's what I have to do.
We care about humans.
Yeah. I love people, and I do the fandom thing of anything. I don't get like Nathan thinks I'm going to be a snitch, but Nathan's a huge fan of Adele. I'm not a huge fan of anything. I'm not a huge fan of any musician. I have favorite bands, but I'm not like a fan. I can't like.
Yeah, we
tell
saw
you
someone
anything
from
about
Selling
them.
Sunset, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, Sally."
Was it
And
Jason?
I don't even know.
I would do that with preachers. Like if I ever saw like John
I have no
Piper in an
idea.
airport, I'd probably
I had no idea.
faint.
Bald and short?
No. Oh no.
a girl?
No, they were. It was like they were from a different season, and so they were like, "Oh, it's them. It's them."
Who knows?
We have no idea. I've become that person too because of him. But like, even if we were to run into celebrity, I'm like,
Well, the problem is when someone's pretty melancholy about those things, like early on when Ashley's married, blah, 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 blah. And then because with her, I can be myself. With other people, I have to like tell myself to be a human. With her, I can like, so then I'd just be like, why do we care?
Yeah.
You know, like not who I care about who if I meet them as a person, I'd love to get to know them. But I'm like, why do we care that they're, they hold a basketball? Like, why, like it's just, that's what immediately runs in my head. And I'm like, what I love is that they're the best at what they do. If we meet a professional athlete, like that, my mind triggers, but it also doesn't trigger to me that like, I should be a fan or should be excited to meet you.
Right.
What I appreciate is that you're the best at what you do.
Yeah.
You're one of the best at what you do. And that I can connect with, that I can relate to, that I can be inquisitive about. What I don't care is like, that I met you.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The only person like I could say that I was like a fan of this past year, Ilona Mar, Lamar, the new rugby
Yeah, the
player.
rugby
The rugby
They put him on the
player?
yeah,
She's on Dancing with the
yeah, she's on
Stars
Dancing with
now?
the Stars now. Yeah, I enjoy her because she's funny on TikTok. One, but two, like if I were to run into her, I would just be like, I think you're an amazing athlete, and that's
And that
it.
was cool to see. I watched
Yeah.
games with you, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is cool. You know.
But like to be like, we're true rugby fans. No, couldn't tell you.
Well, I like the story that women's team had never won anything
Yeah.
or whatever like that.
That was
That's
great.
an interesting
Yes.
thing about it. But overall, like, to get excited as a fan or whatever. Now I do it for my boys. When Matthias plays
you
soccer,
did that
I
today.
get noisy and
You
I
did that
cheer.
today.
'Cause I think that's important for him to hear from me.
Did they win?
So
Because I do that in my head.
We almost did.
Anyways, we'll close the podcast. Everybody, God
All right,
bless you.
bye.
Thanks for joining us.